Hey, Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and welcome to Women's fourth, I believe, fourth session of COVID-19 vaccine with Dr. Effat Jabeen and me, Sabina. And we're here to answer some of the questions that we've had. We've been having a rough year since last year. It's been 1 year since COVID-19 has struck us, and now we have a vaccine this year. A lot has happened. We've lost so many people, and now we have this vaccine out here. We want to talk about it, some of the issues, some of the side effects that we have, some questions related to pregnancy and whatnot. And before I begin, I want to talk about Dr. Effat specifically because she's been doing some amazing work during COVID-19. She went out on a mission to Pakistan, to Swat, and she was helping people there, the underprivileged there. And I want to talk to her a little bit about her experience with that, with Imana and CDRS. And Dr. Effat, first of all, it's International Women's Month. You are you're an inspiration to many. I want to tell a lot of people that you don't get the appreciation that you need. I feel that we should always recognize our leaders. You are the youngest Pakistani out there. You're a nocturnal director. Not that many people know that. And I love that you're out there, you're doing your thing, you go on the missions, you're an inspiration to many, including myself. So please do start by telling a little bit about that mission to Pakistan and then a little bit about COVID. I have some questions from the community and we'll go over that. So Dr. Effat.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Good evening. Thank you so much, Sabina, for this lovely introduction. It's been a year. What a year it's been. We were here exactly a year ago. I think it showed up on our timelines a day or two ago when we were talking first about COVID-19 when it all started last March. And it's been an enduring year for everybody. And the good news is that we're here sitting exactly a year later talking about the vaccine when we were talking about, whether or not the vaccine will be out in a year. And now we have that, and not one, but we have 3 different vaccines on the market. So things are looking better. I know a lot of people have suffered different kinds of losses. Family members were lost, personal losses, business losses. People have lost a lot. But I think it's time to start looking at the positives and think about what's on the horizon and how we can make things better moving forward and start to get back to some sense of normalcy. Sabina mentioned about Imana and my recent medical mission to Pakistan, which I think we can save for the end. And I will take a couple minutes to talk about that, but I think let's get straight to the vaccine, which is why we're mainly here today. And I would like to take your questions. If you have any questions, comments at this time, we will go ahead and talk about
right here below. Ask your questions away. Okay, so if pertaining to COVID-19, the vaccine, the number one question everybody has, is it safe? Especially with the 3rd vaccine that's out with Johnson & Johnson, the 1 shot. It's been said that it has some ingredients and some people are not comfortable with those ingredients, such as the dead cell of a fetus. If you can elaborate a little bit more on that, if it's safe, if it's okay for us to take that vaccine, do you recommend the 2-dose versus the 1-dose, Moderna versus Pfizer, and then the allergies that are related to each?
Sure. So it's. I think that question will take us into the next hour, but I'll try to summarize the best I can without giving too much information that might fly over people's head. So vaccines came out back in December. So now we're at the end of March. So we're at least 3+ months into the vaccines right now. Obviously, the hesitation was there from the get-go that it was built too fast, it was made too fast, and whether it's safe or not. It hasn't been tested on enough people. There was a lot of hesitation, a lot of genuine concerns out there. I personally got the vaccine at the end of December, beginning of January. And so I have been vaccinated for at least almost 3 months at this point. And I'm sitting right here in front of you, infection-free. We have Moderna vaccine, we have Pfizer vaccine. Let's talk about those 2 first, and we'll talk about Johnson & Johnson.
Definitely, yep.
So Moderna vaccine and Pfizer vaccine, they both have efficacy, meaning they both are good more than 95% of the time. Moderna vaccine said 94%, Pfizer said 95%, but anything north of 94, 95%, these are good vaccines. And to put that into perspective, when we talk about the flu shot every year, the flu vaccine, call it flu shot, but essentially it's the vaccine.
Yeah.
Talk about flu vaccines. Flu vaccines are good anywhere from 30 to 60% every year. In a good year, it's
Right.
60% of the time. In not so good a year, it's been about 20 to 30% of the time. And yet, that's still a vaccine that we strongly advocate for, strongly urge people to get every year because it saves, in general, it saves lives. Compare that to Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. They're good 95, 94% of the time. Those are pretty good odds. Those are pretty good numbers. So it doesn't matter if you're looking at Moderna or Pfizer. They're both good vaccines. And I would advocate anyone, whoever can get either of those vaccines, to go ahead and get that vaccine without any hesitation.
Nice. Okay, so now coming to the new one with the Johnson and Johnson and its ingredients. Some people are not comfortable with the ingredients that are in it. This is from the community itself that I got messages where we're not comfortable taking it because of so and so reason.
Right.
If you can elaborate a little bit on that.
I educated myself on this topic because I know it's a very, very sensitive topic. And to elaborate for those who don't understand the question is that the Johnson and Johnson vaccine has some ingredient. It's not so much the ingredient, but the vaccine is usually tested and made inside cells that at some point came from an aborted fetus. So basically, this particular, and I looked into that, this particular vaccine that we're talking about, the abortion happened back in 1985 in Netherlands, and the fetal cells were taken and they were grown in the lab. And since then, that particular cell line has been replicated enough times, and the same cell line is used to grow vaccines in the lab, and that same vaccine is used to inject human beings. That's not to say that the concern becomes that the vaccine is coming from or it has component of a dead fetus or a dead baby. That's not necessarily true. And this is where science becomes a little murky for people who don't have the exact understanding of how the labs work. This happened back in 1985, and those cells were taken and since have been replicated and essentially cloned in a lab, in a petri dish. It is not to say that somewhere out there somebody's killing babies or in an abortion clinic and gathering all those aborted fetuses and making new vaccines. That's certainly not the case. It's inhumane. It's against the law, and there are a lot of barriers to that. Specifically speaking, because the religion issue comes into the play, and I'm not a scholar by any means, but I did look into it. And whether you're Muslim or you're Christian or of any faith, people of faith have questioned it, and the Vatican City had made their comments on that, and they have okayed it for people of faith to take this vaccine because the vaccine doesn't necessarily contain any cells directly from the fetus itself. It's just it becomes very complicated because essentially it is a cell that is grown in a petri dish in a lab, not directly coming from a dead fetus. So not being a religious scholar of by any means, scientifically speaking, the vaccine is safe to take. There have been other vaccines in the past, specifically hepatitis A vaccine. There is MMR vaccine, so the rubella part, which is the R part in the MMR vaccine, that is also made similarly to how Johnson & Johnson vaccine is made. So this is not the first of its kind to be on the market. There have been vaccines. We have essentially, at some point, we've all taken MMR vaccine, so we've all been injected with that. So I don't think that issue should be of any concern at this point.
Okay, so coming back to then all three, is it safe to say that all three vaccines, go for it, whichever one you prefer?
So again, the hesitation is that, we don't have enough data on it. Not enough people have gotten this vaccine. It's too early. It's too soon. And I started out by saying that we got the vaccine back in December. It's been 3+ months. When the vaccine came out after phase 3 clinical trial, both Moderna and Pfizer vaccine had 50,000 plus people who had already been tested on before the vaccine came on market. Since then, hundreds and thousands of people have been vaccinated, and we have a decent amount of data coming out. And so far, there hasn't been any major red flags that would say that it's not safe or it's still too early. I don't think it's too early anymore. I think enough people in the general public have gotten the vaccine to say that it's safe, and that I would recommend anybody to get any of those vaccines, whichever one they can get their hands on, that it's safe to get those vaccines.
Second concern that I've got the past few weeks, we've been talking about COVID, is pregnancy and pregnant ladies. And with the vaccine, I've had people asking me, hey, if I take the vaccine, will I ever be able to even conceive? Does it delay conceiving? Then we had people who were questioning it altogether, like, is it even necessary? Then we had people who asked, is it okay, safe to have it during pregnancy? I know that during pregnancy, women are taking a lot of the COVID shots during pregnancy, but is there any truth to it? Can a woman who's looking to conceive take the vaccine or is it better safe to
so
take it during pregnancy?
When the vaccine first came out, the clinical trials excluded pregnant women and children, which is why in the beginning, pregnant women and children were excluded from giving vaccine in the general population. Since then, recommendations have changed. Pregnant women are getting COVID vaccine. I personally know of a few friends who are pregnant and have taken COVID-19 vaccine. Some have since delivered, some are still pregnant. So far, I've not heard any issues with continuation of pregnancy. Again, it's too soon to tell if it has had any effect on the fertility issue, which I'll definitely delve into that in a minute. But it's safe for pregnant women to take this vaccine. The recommendations have changed. Moderna and Pfizer vaccine is being given to pregnant women and women who have recently delivered and who are breastfeeding and lactating. So that's definitely safe to take. Coming back to your second question about the question about infertility. I don't know how this happens, but every time there's a new vaccine on the market, the rumor starts going around that don't give the vaccine because it'll make you infertile. And it growing up in Pakistan, it always takes me back to Pakistan. Because I'm sidetracking a little bit. I do want to mention this fact here when it comes to vaccines, that Pakistan and Afghanistan are the only two countries on this planet right now who still have the disease polio. And we have a vaccine for polio, but people don't want to give their children polio vaccine because the rumor is that it will make you infertile, that you cannot reproduce anymore. Somehow the Pakistan population continues to increase. So clearly that doesn't seem to be an issue, but that's not true. Same thing with autism, that vaccines cause autism. That's been debunked several times. That's not true. Making people infertile, that's not true. We have no data on that. There's been extensive studies on previous vaccines. Again, because COVID vaccine is so new, we don't have long-term studies on it. Obviously, we have short-term, but no long-term data. But it's absolutely a rumor that needs to be debunked. There's no truth to that. That COVID-19 or any vaccine for that matter causes infertility. And to make matters a little bit simpler, I would say that vaccine is usually a weakened or a dead virus that's injected into the body, and your body makes immunity to that. So if the COVID disease itself, or any other disease for that matter, did not make you infertile, why would a vaccine make you infertile? So that's food for thought. So people who always question infertility, if disease itself didn't make you infertile, vaccine should not. And that's as simple as that.
Nice. Okay, we're gonna see if there's any comments that came through. Let's see here. Consider yourself for your family. Okay, so a question from Wahid: which of the 3 vaccines do you suggest, or would you consider for yourself and your family? I think we've brushed upon this now. So any vaccine is okay. You can read the stats on it: 95%, 96%. It's good to go. You can take any vaccine.
Johnson & Johnson, the percentage is around 75, give or take. And Moderna and Pfizer, of course, north of 94%. Again, I got Pfizer vaccine when it first came out. My friends and colleagues have gotten Moderna vaccine. Some have gotten Pfizer vaccine. Johnson and Johnson is still pretty new, but again, I would recommend that any vaccine that you can get your hands on, I would recommend that go ahead and get it. Even 75% is still a
It's
lot
still
better than
75%. Yes.
vaccine. It's anywhere up to 60%. So I would recommend and to go ahead and get any of those.
Okay. If I had a question regarding the two-shot vaccine. So a lot of people are experiencing a lot of side effects after the second vaccine, after their second shot, but a rare few are receiving it after their first shot. Can you tell the difference between the first and second shot? Is it because of some antibodies in their body, or why are there so many side effects? And why is the difference between the shot one and shot two?
Right. So again, everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people after getting the vaccine, whether it's the first shot or the second shot, they are they're experiencing some symptoms such as fatigue. Some are experiencing fever, just feeling tired all day. Some are experiencing headaches. Some are experiencing nausea. Those are fairly common side effects to any vaccine. The reason why it has become such a big deal is because we as adults don't usually get vaccines. Vaccines are usually given to children. And if you recall, anybody who has children or they've gone to the pediatrician with the kids to get vaccine, and usually the next day the child is down with fever and they're feeling sluggish and they're feeling sick. That is precisely what's happening to adults too, except adults are not used to getting vaccines. So when that happened, this sort of became a big deal of, oh my God, I'm getting a fever. Oh my God, I'm getting a headache. I'm feeling tired. Children are just not able to express that, but that is a normal body reaction. That is something that is supposed to happen after you get a vaccine. Sabina, I cannot hear you. I think you're saying something, but your mic might be mute. Sabina, your mic is mute. I cannot hear you.
Sorry, I'm saying that so when they do experience it, it's not COVID. They don't have COVID at that moment because COVID has very similar side effects.
Right. So the way vaccines work is essentially you're injected with a weakened or a dead cell from COVID or whatever virus and bacteria we're making the vaccine for. So it's asked to give your body an exposure, but to a weaker version of the same virus and bacteria. So your body builds immunity, develops a reaction. But it doesn't mean that you have COVID after, if you have these symptoms. Same thing. And I keep going back to a flu shot because that's something that adults do get. And it's a good comparison that normally people get the flu shot and then the next day they feel a little fever, they feel a little tired. And some people have a severe reaction and they say, oh, I'm not taking flu vaccine because I got the flu after I took the vaccine. Well, it's not, you didn't get the flu. Your body is just reacting normally to a foreign body or a virus that we introduce in a controlled setting, aka a vaccine. So it is body's normal reaction. Some bodies react more strongly than others. So having fever, having headache, having a little nausea, feeling a little tired for a day or two after vaccine, whether it's vaccine shot number 1 or shot number 2, it's normal reaction. In the beginning, people were having more reactions to the second dose of the vaccine. Later on, we saw that some people were having reaction to the first dose of vaccine as well. And the theory behind it is that most likely those people already had COVID-19 at some point in the last year. So their body had some sort of immune response already built. So when they got the vaccine, even with the first dose, the body was doing its job and it showed some reaction.
Okay, so we're gonna take another question from the audience. Let's see if we have any more here. Yep. Okay, so how long am I protected against COVID after taking the vaccine? Thank you, Amara, for that question. So I took the vaccine now. Am I protected? That's it. No more COVID? Am I COVID free for the rest of my life? So I never have to wear a mask again?
It's a great question that we just don't have enough information to have a 100% answer right now. Again, everything we're learning as we go. We don't have long-term studies on it. So far, the data has been that, again, we're been into this pandemic for about a year and into the vaccine about 4 months now, give or take. And so far, the immunity is there. Whether this immunity will be there a year from now, we just don't know. We don't have enough data for that. Going back to the masks, just because you're vaccinated doesn't mean that you are 100% immune to it. You can still get the virus, you can still have the disease. One thing I want to clarify here, and again, this is true for other vaccines, such as the pneumonia vaccines that elderly take, the flu vaccine, and now the COVID vaccine. Just because you have the vaccine doesn't mean that you're untouchable, that the virus cannot do any damage. When we talk about the efficacy being 95%, 94%, or 76% for Johnson and Johnson, and so on and so forth, these numbers don't mean that 95% of the people will never get the disease. No, the way it works is that you have to look at the fine print, and the way it works is that 95% of those people can still get the disease, but it'll be very minor. And the study said that 95 and actually up to 100% of people will not get the severe disease that is landing people into the hospital. So you can still get the virus, you can have minor symptoms, and you can recover up to 95% of those times. So there's 5% of the time that you can actually have moderate symptoms. So we categorize mild symptoms where you barely feel anything, moderate symptoms, okay, you felt something, but you're not sick enough to go into the hospital, and severe symptoms when you're actually in the hospital because you're so sick. So the vaccine means that you not up to 95% of the time, even if you get it, you're not going to end up in the hospital, that you will be protected. You'll have enough protection from this vaccine that you're not going to get severely sick, that you
Severe.
will get
Gotcha.
hospitalization. So that's what
Okay.
the percentages mean. It doesn't mean that 95% you're not going to get it. You may still get it. It may not, but it won't be severe enough.
It won't be severe. Got you.
Same
So
thing.
these are some of the things that we've understood now in this phase, that these are some common myths. Thank you for explaining them well. And going forward now, where do we see ourselves a year from now? Or is it too soon to say what's next? I know Novavax is coming out with another vaccine.
Yes.
And Inovio is working on their vaccine. And I know by the end of the year, we're probably going to have a couple of new
Yes, we
vaccines
have
out.
12 different vaccines on the market, 3 in America, but other countries, China has put out their vaccine, Russia has put out their vaccine, and vaccine has finally reached Pakistan as well, and they're talking about it as well. So same thing, different vaccines, they're trying to get it to as many people as possible. But of course, the question remains: when can I take my mask off? When can I go out, and when can the life be normal? It's a phase, so it'll have to be overlap, right? So not everybody has been vaccinated yet, so we don't have the herd immunity that we need to sort of normalize the life. We need at least 75% of the world's population to be vaccinated before we can say that herd immunity has been achieved, and we're nowhere close to 75%. So until that happens, I have a feeling that masks will stick around for a long
For a
period.
long period of time.
I don't know if it's next year or 2 years
Right.
or 5. No, hopefully not 5 years. But masks are going to be around for some time.
Definitely. Okay, so now just going back to originally where I started off and how you went out, little digress from COVID, how you went on your mission. I do want to talk about that a little bit more. I do want you to elaborate a little bit more your mission to Pakistan, to Swat, and just tell me briefly a little bit about that. I did want to know.
Yeah, so I would love to talk about that for a minute here. This was back in, I think, end of November, beginning of December. I went to Pakistan with an organization called IMANA, Islamic Medical Association of North America, and they partnered with CDRS, Comprehensive Disaster Relief. I forgot what the S stands for, but CDRS, well-known organization. They have a strong foothold in Pakistan. They have clinics in Pakistan. So Imana partnered with CDRS, and we had a team of doctors go to Swat, where they have a clinic established. And we were there, and we saw, I'm forgetting exactly how many we saw, but we saw close to 1,000 patients there in 1 week's time. It was myself and about 5 other doctors, a team of 6 doctors. And I was very impressed with how they have the clinic set up there. Swat, for people who are not familiar with the region, It's in the northern areas, and where we were, it was actually north of Sawat. So people who live in the mountains, who don't have proper education, who don't have proper sanitation supplies there. Sanitation is a big issue. And because the cultural restrictions in the area, is the medical care is just not there. And there's a huge need for that. So CDR has made a free clinic there that's been established for about 15 years now. And Amana sends teams of doctors as frequently as they can. And I was lucky enough to be a part of that this year.
Yes.
Imana is doing great work, and I will be partnering with them for my future trips as well. Same thing with CRS. And I do want to mention here that Imana has a clinic in grounds in Bangladesh in Cox's Bazar for the Rohingya refugees, which Cox's Bazar is the largest refugee camp outside of Myanmar for the Rohingya refugees. And just yesterday morning, or was it the day before yesterday, there was a fire that broke out into the refugee camps, and there's been several lives lost. And the clinics that they had within the camp obviously were also destroyed completely. And because of the pandemic situation, the government is not allowing any foreign personnel to come in. There's visa restrictions, so Imana cannot send a team in, but they are looking for donations to quickly reestablish the clinic that they lost on the ground, so they can reestablish that. And as soon as the visa situation.
And for everyone watching this, we will provide the link to the donation site for the refugee camp. And I have one question that came in here really quick here. I have from Nusratji. Can I still be a carrier after getting the vaccine?
Good question. So yes, so this is what we were talking about earlier. That vaccination doesn't mean that you're untouchable. You can still get the virus. You may not experience any symptoms, if any, and sometimes you might experience very mild symptoms that you may not even think are related to a virus. But you can still get the virus and transmit it to other people, meaning you can be a carrier. So yes, that is still a possibility, which is why masks are still mandated despite being vaccinated.
Perfect. And let's see here if there's any other questions. I don't see anything more coming in. Is there anything else that you want to end up with the COVID session on? Anything that you feel that needs to be known? Any fact that you see from your side, from the community? Any questions that came on your end that would you like to?
So I think we touched on all the basic questions here, and
that's some of the pictures
of the medical mission that I was on.
Yes, yes.
I think we have Amara working in the background, our tech guru. This was.
Thank you, Amara, for that.
Thank you so much for putting this up. This was the entire team when we went to Sawat. So this is a team of doctors and the people on the grounds. I think we touched up on the basic things that I wanted to talk about.
Yes, Nadia, does vaccine affect women's fertility? Nadia ji, we did go over this question earlier in the session. I'll direct you to that again. Just listen to one of the second questions.
Not affect women's fertility. So that's a short answer. If you want a detailed explanation, please watch the video from the beginning, and you should be able to get the detailed answer there. If you have any more questions, please feel free to drop your questions under this
right
video.
Below here. You can drop your questions.
I will continue to answer those questions to the best of my ability.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Effat.
Thank you, Vina.
Take care.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.